Ambassador Ahmed Saleem, Ambassador at Large at Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Maldives and Foreign Secretary General of SAARC, Professor Dr. Chintamani Mahapatra, Rector, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Professor Sanjay Kumar Pandey, Professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University, Dr. Amit Gupta, Associate Professor at USAF AirWar College, Professor Dr. Chong Zhenming, Head of Department of International Relations and Associate Dean of School of Political Science and International Relations at Tonji University, distinguished scholars, esteemed partners of the convention, distinguished participants, and ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and good morning. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all at the first NICE International Studies Convention. The NICE International Studies Convention is a flagship event of Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement. The theme of the three-day convention is Reimagining the World, Reflections on the Future of World Order. The aim of the convention is to connect academicians, faculties and researchers of different universities working in the field of international relations. Through this convention, we not only aim to connect with scholars from the world, but also explore different research topics that a scholar in different parts of the world are engaged with. This year, we have invited 330 scholars from more than 33 countries through 44 sessions, and we are supported by 24 universities and centers. We wish to organize NICE International Studies Convention every year. We hope to organize it physically next year when things get normal. NICE has hosted several eminent leaders, policymakers, and public intellectuals, such as Professor Noam Chomsky, John Mearsheimer, Stephen Walt, Professor Barry Buzan, Professor John Eakenberry, former Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of New Zealand, Sir Donald Charles McKinnon, State Minister of Education of Maldives, Dr. Abdullah Rashid Ahmed, Foreign Minister of Nepal, Pradeep Kumar Gewali, Minister of Education of Nepal, Virajmani Pokhrel, State Minister of Regional Cooperation of Sri Lanka, similarly Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka, Professor Kishore Mahbubani, and several other distinguished personalities from the region and the world. We have also hosted several international conferences such as NICE Global Conclave, International Women's Summit, Young Scholar Summit, International Conference on Understanding China, International Conference on International Migration, and several others. At NICE, we have created a fine balance between policy and academic research. In spite of being a think tank, we have strong engagement with the reputed universities around the world. This convention is also supported by 18 universities, and we have participants from more than 110 universities around the world. In June, we launched our biannual journal, Journal of Security and International Studies. The first issue of this journal will be released in January 2022. We'd like to request everyone to contribute their paper for the journal and articles and book reviews for our website. The NICE International Studies Convention is an academic discussion. The chair, moderator, and panelists will speak in open format without any protocol precedents. I, on behalf of NICE, would like to thank all our distinguished speakers and participants for joining us today. We are really honored by your kind presence. The convention is streaming live on Facebook page, Twitter, and several other Facebook of Nepali media simultaneously. We have shared the link in our chat box. Kindly share it on your social media so that maximum can benefit from this enriched discussion. We'd also like to request everyone to tweet about this event at #NISC2021. To begin with, let me invite Ambassador Ahmed Saleem, Ambassador at Large at Ministry of Foreign Affairs Maldives and former Secretary General of SAARC, to make his remarks. Ambassador Saleem, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jaiswal, and good morning, everybody. Dear colleagues,
sir, please
ladies.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Sir, please unmute yourself.
It's unmuted. Can you hear me?
Sir, we can't hear you. Maybe there is some problem with the audio. Please unmute. Yes.
What about now? Is it okay now?
Still, we can't hear you.
But it's unmuted actually.
Oh, he's audible. Okay, it's
perfect. I can hear the ambassador.
It's perfect.
I can hear.
I think it should be okay for others. Is it okay?
Now it's perfect, sir.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Good morning, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to join join you all for this nice International Studies Convention. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to Dr. Pramod Jaiswal for organizing this timely event and inviting me to speak. In December, as we mark the 37th anniversary of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, the organization is facing an existential threat. Um, Head of state, foreign ministers, and foreign secretaries have not met since 18th summit in Kathmandu in 2014, entrenched bilateral tensions and eruption of new ones, the risk of security competition in the Indian Ocean, dismal uh, regional trade, and SAFTA is off track. Ladies and gentlemen, critics argue that the SAARC failed to provide any meaningful help to recover from the global pandemic, ravaging our economies and support countries dealing with climate emergency. Can 1.5 billion people count on SAARC for urgent action to safeguard our shared economy, environment, and culture? Allow me to make a few points. Regarding pandemics, I commend India for convening a video conference of the SAARC leaders in March 2020 to initiate a regional response to the COVID 19 pandemic. The meeting saw a creation of a SAARC COVID emergency fund. As follow-up to the leaders' video conference, the government of Pakistan organized the SAARC Health Ministers virtual meeting in April 2020. In September last year, the formal meeting of the SAARC finance ministers devoted to discussing pandemic impacts on the South Asian economies took place. In October, SAARC education ministers met virtually to discuss the education sector's response to the COVID 19 pandemic. In addition, several other expert level meetings have been held to tackle the pandemic's adverse impacts on public health, trade, finance, and among others. Despite the impact, COVID-19 pandemic presented an opportunity to unleash an impulse on regional cooperation. For example, it is critical for the SAARC to provide strong support and voice for the COVAX facility and to make COVID-19 vaccine a global pandemic good. However, the absence of engagements at the policy level, namely foreign ministers, foreign ministers and secretary level made decisions very difficult. In fact, due to the inefficiency of the existing regional mechanisms, COVID-19 fund was created as a standalone activity outside the SAARC calendar of routine activities. The association again missed an opportunity to restart the much needed high level engagements among the SAARC member states. Dear colleagues, informal meetings of the SAARC foreign ministers and SAARC finance ministers have taken place annually, and technical level meetings among member states on several agreed agendas are being held regularly. But the SAARC summit is yet to be held since 2014. The most prolonged period summit has gone without a summit. I'm talking about 7 long years. The absence of summit for such a long time has adversely affected bilateral relations among member states. There has been limited opportunity for leaders to meet and discuss bilateral issues to find solutions to them. Thus, we know at the 18th summit in Kathmandu in 2014, leaders decided to hold the SAARC summits every 2 years or earlier if necessary, and sessions of the Council of Ministers once a year, Standing Committee at least once a year, and Programming Committee at least twice a year. Ladies and gentlemen, when SAARC was formed, everyone hoped that it would become an effective organization such as ASEAN. However, in SAARC, there has been no significant headway in reducing contentions and disputes among member states to facilitate effective regional cooperation for the socio-economic advancement of the region. Sadly, South Asia remains not only one of the world's poorest regions, it is also a region that least integrated in terms of physical connectivity and is plagued by extreme poverty despite the efforts that have been made to alleviate it. As SAARC fades, countries have no choice but to look for an alternative forum for engagements. In this regard, India has proposed the South Asia Forum. The concept paper of the forum states that it will serve as a common regional platform for regenerating debates and discussions and exchange ideas on South Asia and for its future development. Going by the aspirations laid out in the concept paper, SAF is to eventually establish itself as a Bioforum South Asia, World Economic Forum, and Asia Pacific Roundtable meeting. The question is, should we reinvent the wheel or organization existing SAARC mechanism to fit our purpose? Dear colleagues, criticisms aside, SAARC is not without achievements. Bringing the 8 countries together to a common platform to discuss common problems and find shared solutions in major achievements of SAARC, the agreement on SAPTA and the agreement on SAFTA, the SAARC SDF and SAU, SAARC special bodies, and stand out as significant achievements of SAARC to date. However, the association needs change. What measures should the member countries take to inject new and old ideas to revive and revitalize the organization? What can SAARC do to reinvigorate its cooperation mechanisms? Several recommendations exist, including the comprehensive report, the first of its kind in the SAARC process, produced during my tenure as Secretary General of SAARC. Today, I will mention 3 focus areas of my interest. First, the pandemic provides a golden opportunity to further streamline its SAARC mechanisms and abandon outdated activities and institutions. For example, immediate changes are needed to make STF more efficient and effective to manage the COVID emergency fund. Second, the pandemic also provides an opportunity to accelerate climate action and revitalize disaster management in the region. We must have strong ambitions for robust action to reverse climate change. We must do more to adopt plans for transitioning to net zero emissions and mobilize a global coalition for carbon neutrality. We must work hard to deliver a better world to our vulnerable groups, including women and the young generation. Here, I wish to stress the urgent need to address gender-based issues and inequalities, both of which have been magnified by COVID-19. Third, the exclusion of bilateral issues for the deliberations of SAARC could have been intended to discourage the member countries from discussing contentious issues or of national interest to some member countries, but not to the region as a whole. The deepening fracture of the regional order continues to raise the risk of miscalculation and armed hostilities. Thus, it is important to revisit this question of SAARC's role, maintain peace and stability through dialogue and cooperation. If economic cooperation is the primary objective of SAARC, which is thwarted by contentious political and bilateral issues, and which SAARC is prevented from discussing, the purpose and rationale of the existence of the organization itself comes under question. It has been said in many forums, and I wish to reiterate that more engagement and cooperation between India and Pakistan is needed for the SAARC to prosper, if not survive, as a regional organization. SAARC provided such a platform for engagement in the past, and without reinventing the wheel, the association can do the same again. Although 36 years of existence has not obviously not brought the desired dividends in the region, I personally refuse to admit that SAARC has failed or has hope. In this background, it may be time that the leaders once again undertake a comprehensive and honest reprisal of the organization's objectives and strategies and mechanisms to accomplish them. Whether or not SAARC will survive and depend itself into a viable organization that can indeed inject new life into it, and this vast region depends entirely on its members. It is if an honest assessment is made by the member states, they will admit that SAARC is not serving its members well. In conclusion, I would like to say that I have always believed SAARC is the best thing that has happened in this region. And I honestly believe that there is no alternative SAARC for regional peace and harmony. So let us all put our heads together and try it harder once more to make it work again. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Ambassador Ahmed Saleem, thank you so much for your remarks. May I now invite Professor Chintamani Mahapatra, Rector, Jawaharlal Nehru University, for his remarks. Over to you, sir.
Namaste, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to people across the globe in different parts of time zones. Dr. Pramod, distinguished panelists and participants. Dr. Pramod Jaiswal has given me one of the most difficult themes to speak in 10 to 15 minutes. Evolution of international studies in India. I cannot do justice to the theme, but let me share some of my thoughts on this particular theme. when we talk about the state of international studies, study and research, it is a mega theme. Now, when you trace the evolution of this, we can go back to ancient India. There are many people who will jump to catch your throat the moment you talk about ancient, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and so many other texts. Let me tell you that people who have studied it, tremendous amount of thoughts and ideas and theories can be found in ancient texts on diplomacy, on negotiations, on power and responsibility of the envoys and the diplomats, on warfare, on conflict resolution, and so many things that we talk today as part of IR or international studies we find in ancient India. Very, very rich thought. But when we talk about international studies today, it is basically as an academic field, it's of recent origin. It began after a World War, the World War I. It picked up after another World War, World War II. And most of the people who talk about the contemporary international studies, they study IR as a subject from that time onward. Indians, not all Indians, Indians have always been thoughtful about international relations even after World War I. The Indian Political Science Association, which was established in 1938, it was not just a study of politics and political processes and political science. It had an international affairs dimension as well. 5 years later, when the guns were barking and the bombs were exploding because of World War II, in India, we started Indian Council of World Affairs. After the war, and after about, 12 years or so, in 1955, under the leadership of Pandey Nehru, we set up what is known as Indian School of International Studies. And of course, when JNU, my university, started functioning in 1970, ISIS became part of SIS. Now, from that kind of beginning today, we have more than 20 think tanks which are studying international relations, strategic affairs in different dimensions of it in India. There are more than 30 universities which have different kind of departments studying issues related to international politics and relations. Now, there are many critics. Recently, quite a few writings have come up about the state of international relations studies in India, IR studies in India. And the critics are very well-known people. Some of them were practitioners of diplomacy. Some of them are very well-known academics. What I'm going to say in a few minutes is basically a critique of the critics. I don't accept most of the criticisms which are made about the state of international studies in India. Number one, there is a complaint. I'll not name anyone. Number one, there is a complaint that the Indians have not done archival research. If an Indian is going to make this point, then that Indian should know that archival research can be done better if only the government of India would declassify the documents. It was done very recently. Now saying that after 1980s, there are hardly any archival research by the Indians, it is not proper. Of course, there were a few Indians who studied abroad, and some Indians from India, including me. We went to the West and we broke our neck in archival research in different presidential libraries in the United States, National Archives, even Public Record Office, Kew Gardens, London. So this is a very, very unfair critics of the state of international studies in India. Some of them say that the teachers and the students study too much of theories. There is hardly any study or recommendations on policy-related issues in IR studies programs in India. And then others complain, all these theories are basically Western theories. Where are the Indian theories on this? Then there is another category of people who have done some work in theories, who teach theories, who have not developed any theory. They are the ones who say, there's too little theory in Indian writings and Indian research. It's all about descriptive stuff as far as different issues of international affairs are concerned. theory and the practice are just like the two banks of a river. The knowledge flows like a river. If it is only theory, without taking adequate amount of data on what's going on in the world, it's of no use. If it is only description, narration of what's going on in the world with little analysis and with little conceptual theoretical perspective, it is completely useless. It becomes a kind of knowledge. A combination of both are important. Instead of criticizing one another, too much of theories, too little theories, the best thing would be to accept both and then do our research and teaching and our writing. And then, of course, there are others who say methodology approaches are very poor. The subject itself is of recent origin. It's not like political science, 5,000 years old or maybe more. IR as a subject itself is new. So if IR pundits around the world are not able to have IR specific theories and approaches and methodologies now, and they just borrow from other sources, you can't criticize this. In fact, those who believe, accept, and praise interdisciplinary research, they should not have any kind of complaint that IR does not have IR-specific theories, it is borrowing from sociology and political science and so many other fields. So be it. So be it. The goal is to learn and understand, and than anything else. Another category of critics put all the blame on Nehru. Nehru, for more than 15 years, he was ruling the Indian foreign policy making and implementation. He did not allow anyone to grow and write something else. Very unfair, very unfair. International relations and studies is not just Indian foreign policy. Maybe Pandit Nehru was dominating Indian foreign policy, that's correct. But there are many people who did so much of research. You know, I'm very proud to say that Dr. Amit Gupta is with me. He's my friend. His father, Sister Gupta, a diplomat and a scholar. The kind of work he has done, he was not suppressed by Nehruvian ideas or policies. My own guru, Professor M.S. Venkatramani, who was awarded the best professor of American history in the world by the American Historical Congress. They have done tremendous amount of work. I have so many teachers in SIS did a lot of work, and simply saying that Nehru did not allow anyone to grow and IR was not prospering in India because of Nehru is a very unfair criticism. Then there are so many very flimsy critics. Let me not name anyone. Very flimsy critics of state of international relations study in India. Suppose somebody would say, Indians are not very serious about social sciences. For heaven's sake, they should read and they should have a good literature review about the kind of work on politics, on sociology done by very many scholars in India before making that kind of statement. And saying that because Indians are not interested, international studies is not growing. Then they would argue all students will go to universities and prepare for getting into civil services, IAS, IFS, IPS, or engineering and medical. So bright students don't come here. That is also not the right kind of criticism to make a judgment about the kind of work that has been done by maybe a microscopic minority of Indian scholars, but nonetheless, they have done tremendous amount of work. It is a general statement without doing proper research on who has written what. One or two individuals cannot write a paper in a few journals or make a statement in a convention like this and make derogatory remarks about the state of IR in India. Then others who say, IR in India is just Delhi-centric. Maybe at one time, because School of International Studies is a unique institution in the world, even today. Even in the United States, you find different universities specializing on different area studies. There is a School of International Studies in Delhi. The entire world, both functional and area-wise, under one roof. So it appears to be Delhi-centric. But over the years, so many students who have passed out from SIS, and they have gone into either think tanks or even journalism or even teaching jobs in very many parts of India, they are doing the research. So it is no longer Delhi-centric. There are others who give advice. What should be done on IR studies in India? One would say, talk about global IR theory. Indian scholars must mainstream into global IR theory. I personally get terrified when people use global IR theory. What is global? Can there be an American IR theory? There cannot be. There cannot be. There's so much of differences. Or maybe in social sciences or political thought, you can pick up one great thinker and all votaries and admirers of that thinker, they can form a school, including the Marxist school. But talking about IR theory and in global dimension itself is, in my view, wrong. Unless we are able to use very simple language, simple word, avoid jargons, IR will remain only in the domain of a few great intellectuals who will talk about it and nobody else will understand. There's nothing called global. International, I can understand still. But global, and they would say that India should not have an Indian school of IR the way the Chinese are trying to do. 5 Indians having 7 opinions on every topic. Can there at all be an Indian IR school? There cannot be. Then there is another advice. Right now, things have changed around the world. India is an emerging power. So IR studies must focus on that. Is it IR studies? Only India and only emerging power? No. Let IR studies evolve. It should not be confined to one country and one particular period, emerging or declining or rising, things like that, in my view. Now, then others, they're saying, power is shifting now from the west to the east. For the last 20, 25 years, we're hearing this, power shift and all. I don't know how much power is really shifted. Everybody talks about it. Like even India is an emerging power, somebody was joking, India is an emerging power, it keeps emerging. It's only an Obama who came to Indian Parliament and say India has emerged, right? So if power is shifting, let it be. But are you going to build a theory only because power is shifting, or study, observe, analyze, collect data, collate them, dissect them, understand them? What should be done? So this kind of prescription about the state of IR theories or even empirical research that should be done, in my view, is not the right thing to do. Rather, let things evolve, let people study, and then you make an analysis of what has been done. So I would say that Indian IR theory, in whatever way it is evolved, it has evolved. Is it perfect? Is it fantastic? No. Is it lousy? Is it despicable? No. Every country in the world should have scholars to study IR in different dimensions, not just the foreign policy and the security environment of that particular country, but the globe. And finally, let me also draw your attention to the fact. I'm not against theory. Theory is important. Conceptual understanding of every issue will give shape to our understanding, there's no doubt about it. But theory for theory's sake should not be there. In my own interaction with so many colleagues, not just in India, in different parts of the world, I've found those who learn theory and teach theory, when they guide their own students, they say, you write whatever you want, but bring in theory. Is it the way to do research? First, you have a theoretical understanding and put facts into that thing, selected facts, and then you prove that theory. It's not the way. First, you collect the data, study the data, test the theory. If you can build a new theory, rather than fitting data into theory and then only your thesis will be fantastic, world class. This is not the way to do it. So I think those who are working on theory will have to do research in archives and also do empirical data collection and analysis. A combination of both, a good combo, can make our understanding of IR, what's going on in the world, in the relationship between countries, will be much better than compartmentalization, theory, heavy theory and less empiricism, and vice versa. Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Mahapatra, thank you for your remark. May I now invite Sanjay Kumar Pandey, Professor at Center for Russian and Central Asian Studies, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal University, to speak on India and Russia in the emerging global order. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just a minute, just a minute. Thank you very much, niece. Yes. Thank you very much, niece. Thank you, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, for inviting me. The task that I have is to talk about what place and role do countries like India and Russia have in emerging world order. Now, in simple terms, when we talk about a world order, we mean a system with a set of rules, with set of institutions to regulate and maybe facilitate the relations and interaction among the members, as well as between members and non-members. Now, the moot question is, the most important question is, who makes these rules and creates these institutions? There lies the crux to the question whether liberal international order is in decline. So, before I discuss Russia and India, just a few words about what is happening to the so-called liberal international order in the last 5 years. We have heard quite a few times that this order is in decline. Now, what this order presupposes, according to Mershimer, the fundamental requirement behind assumptions of liberal international order is that it should be a unipolar world where the leading state is a liberal democracy. Now, it is very inherent in any conception of liberal international order is the fact that there is dominance of one idea or ideology and dominance of one bloc, or preferably one state, one superpower or hyperpower, whatever you call it. So inherent in the fact of international order is the reality of dominance, the reality of hegemony. What we have understood as liberal international order, which in any case doesn't go beyond maybe 1990s, when the Soviet Union collapsed and when Cold War ended. Sometimes we would like to believe that this liberal international order took birth at the end of Second World War, which may not be very true. There are scholars who believe that the end of Second World War led to a Cold War order or a Cold War bipolar system, not really an international liberal order. It was only with the collapse of communist regimes, communist systems, Soviet Union, and the collapse of bipolar system that whatever we may understand by liberal international order took birth and has been there since then, although it has been challenged. Now, the very idea of an international order, and including liberal international order, is the idea of domination, is the idea of hegemony. Now, and when we talk about domination and hegemony, we should understand that this domination or hegemony has been that of a very select group of countries. In the best of the times, the liberal international order was basically an order with Western Europe, or maybe Europe, US, North America, Japan, maybe Australia and some other countries leading it, while the rest of the world was either following them or at times resisting them. And that brings me to these two states, that is Russia and India. Now, Russia has been, the story of Russia is a complex one. Huntington once said that Russia is a torn country. It is torn between its European and Eurasian identities. And Russia has also been, in many ways, a dissenter. In the 19th century, whether it was the Napoleonic order, if we may call it, that was challenged by Russia. Napoleon's invasion of Russia in 1812, some would say, was his nemesis, and that led to his downfall. After that, of course, Russia emerged as an important European player, but not really as part of European civilization, the core being in Western Europe. And Russia was never accepted as such by the rest of Europe. Within Russia also, there were various ideas and movements which basically emphasized Russia's distinctness or specificity or uniqueness. In the 19th century, these were Slavophiles who emphasized Russia's Slavophile identity and culture and way of life, very distant from that of Europe. In the 20th century, there were Eurasianists who believed that Russia is something like a bridge between Europe and Asia, which connects the two, which has similarities with both Europe and Asia, but at the same time, which is distinct from both. Now, the history of last 2 centuries, if we see, of Russia has been the history of, in different ways, in terms of military might or politically, or in the realm of ideas opposing the West, whether it was Slavophilism and Eurasianism in 19th and 20th century, or after 1917, it was communism. So Russia has been the dissenter, the challenger of European domination and European dominated world order. To some extent, the story of India can be similarly narrated. And there are other similarities between the two countries in the sense that both are very old civilizations. Some would say both are civilization states. Both have a strong sense of history and a strong sense of their destiny in the world, especially in the post-independence period, around the same time when Second World War ended. India came up with its own worldview, that which was called non-aligned movement. And therefore, India also, in that sense, became a dissenter. And as I said, India, Russia, China, many other countries, most countries of the third world were never part of the so-called liberal international order in any case. So both India and Russia, civilization states, old civilizations with a strong sense of history and their place, and also in the last 70, 80 years with a desire and aspiration to be autonomous players with their own worldview, with their own set of values, with their own aspirations. Well, one can say that even China can be clubbed along with Russia and India, having been a civilization states with a very unique, distinct, and rich cultural history. But I would not like to talk about China here for the simple reason that in the last 10 or 20 years, China is increasingly seen as one of the poles in the emerging world order. So rather being a dissenter, China is, one can say, becoming a status quoist power. Well, it's a very, the categories status quoist and revisionist are very flexible categories. The same country can be status quoist and dissenter, revisionist in different circumstances. One can even say that when I read one article in which it was argued that in the Doklam crisis, it was China which was revisionist and India which was status quoist, because India wanted to preserve the territorial arrangement, whereas China was seeking to challenge it. So these categories are very complicated, complex, but nevertheless, in general, today we can see that with rise of China and with most of the countries accepting China as an emerging, if not already emerged, superpower and pole in international politics, I would rather exclude China from this discussion, in which we are talking about countries like India and Russia, which have, as I said, a long civilization history, which have significant military capabilities, technological capabilities, and which have aspiration to play an autonomous role, but which realize that they cannot be one of the dominant poles in the emerging world order. So in that sense, India and Russia, rather Russia and India, can be called as dissenters who are seeking a place under the sun in the emerging world order, knowing fully well that they cannot be the dominant player in a bipolar, emerging bipolar reality, international reality. Now, one question is that how these countries are going to behave. This is a complicated question, although we in India are accustomed to talk about our historic friendship and partnership with Russia. For nearly 70 years or so, India and Russia saw eye to eye on many of the global and regional issues. Their security concerns were similar, and their military partnership is a well-known fact. But in the last 5-7 years, especially since 2014, after Russia's annexation, or if you want to call it reintegration of Crimea, and after Russia's intervention in the Ukrainian crisis, and subsequently in Syria, we have seen an assertive Russia trying to reclaim its global position, if not dominance. And in this quest for its global position, Russia has found a willing partner in China. So after, in fact, in 2014, 2015, we heard of a 400 billion gas deal, energy deal between Russia and China, and that launched the partnership. Subsequently, we have seen how on various global issues and regional issues, including Afghanistan, including Syria, Iran, you name it, and on all these issues, we have found that Russia and China have coordinated their position more than what India and Russia have done. Similarly, we have seen that India has been trying to create a fruitful partnership with US. Now, it is believed that this has put the two countries in opposing camps. So how do you see these two countries behaving with their long historic partnership, but which have diverged on some issues in the last 5-7 years? Now, it is also believed that the one issue that brought India and Russia together in 1960s and 70s was the China factor. The Sino-Soviet split happened in 1960s, leading to violent conflict along the Sino-Soviet border. And subsequently, in 1971, we saw the Indo-Soviet Friendship Treaty. So since then, we have considered each other as our viable partner and most trusted partner. In recent times, more so in the last 6 years, but in the last 25-30 years, increasingly, Russia and China have settled their border, have settled other bilateral issues, have come together in various platforms, whether it was Shanghai 5 or SCO or BRICS. And of course, India is very much part of many of these regional platforms and organizations. But one point that I would like to emphasize, and with that maybe I'll end my presentation unless there are some questions, is the fact that maybe in the short term and medium term, the interests of Russia and China may converge, because the primary contradiction that they see is between them and the US-led Western alliance, NATO. But in the long run, one can, without much of a guessing work, one can assume that differences are likely to arise between Russia and China because of historic reasons, because of even though they have settled their borders, but last year, in fact, in 2020, that was the 150th year of the founding of Vladivostok, the easternmost city of Russia, and there were celebrations throughout Russia and especially in Vladivostok, and the news about these celebrations were put on the website of Russian embassy in Beijing, and there were protests on the social media and elsewhere by many Chinese. The Chinese government did not take any official position on it, but it is said that the Chinese have a long historical memory, and they have not forgotten how during the 19th century, through many unequal treaties, Russia took many of the territories which China believes in the Far East, including the town that is now called Vladivostok. That was originally, in the estimation of many Chinese, especially Chinese nationalists, these were Chinese territories. So in the longer run, it is believed that officially or through other platforms, Chinese are going to rake up this issue of unequal treaties. The fact that in the entire Siberia and Far East, there are barely 60 million Russians living, while on the other side of the border in China, there are more than 600 million. Many of the Chinese have since established their businesses in Russia's Far East, including Vladivostok, and through legal or illegal means are living there. So there are reasons why one can foresee the falling out between Russia and China in the medium or long term. And that will create space for India and Russia to come together. Even now they are together, and with their aspiration to be autonomous players. I mean, one cannot think of Russia as a junior partner of China in the emerging international order. Similarly, although for now, India is willing to cooperate with US, but there are enough reasons to believe that in the long term, in the long run, India would like to be an autonomous player. There are many in India who believe that in the long run, India will be the number 2 power. So there are reasons to believe that in an emerging world order, these two players who as of now in the short and medium term are not going to be dominant powers and players, they are definitely going to reassert, and that will and to try and create a niche for themselves. So in the end, I would like to say that the story of international orders is the story of dominance and hegemony, is the story of resistance to these dominations, and therefore countries like India and Russia can look forward to more space for themselves in the emerging international order. I would like to stop here and hope that there will be questions and discussion in the rest of the session. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Professor Pandey. Thank you so much for your remarks. May I now invite Dr. Amit Gupta, Associate Professor at Department of International Security Studies, USAF, AirWar College. Dr. Gupta will be speaking on how the US should view US-China rivalry. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Pramod, for the invitation. And I had planned for a 7-minute talk, but since I have 15 minutes, I am going to do what I always do, which is talk about things which have excited my imagination from my fellow speakers. And Chintamani is not only an old friend, he's a dear friend. As I like to say, we've both grown gray together. But I want to comment on what Chintamani said and reinforce what he said. Firstly, I think it is insulting to tell Indians that they need to get a certificate from the rest of the world on how they do international relations. Indians don't need that. Second thing, if you look at the history of Indian IR scholarship, thinking, diplomacy, it is extremely sophisticated. Go back and look at journals like India Quarterly and International Studies and see the writings from the 50s and the 60s. It is world class. Second thing, every political party in India had a foreign policy cell. The Communist Party of India had a foreign policy cell. Though it's probably still giving the same line on the dictatorship of the proletariat that it was giving in the 1930s. I'm sure Comrade Karat is still running that. The Swatantra Party had a foreign policy cell, and it used to keep talking about how do we deal with the West at a time when Nehru was talking about non-alignment. So we had a foreign policy debate going in India. You had think tanks like the Center for the Study of Developing Societies, where Rajni Kothari was talking about world order. And lastly, let me give you a little personal note, because Chintamani mentioned my father. In the early 1960s, when K. Subramaniam was a bureaucrat sitting in some village in Tamil Nadu, my father, Raj Krishna, and Subramaniam Swamy were graduate students in Cambridge. My father was MIT, these two were at Harvard. And the three of them started writing about why India needs a nuclear bomb. And they were writing about it in journals across the world. So they were known as the Cambridge Bomb Lobby. Now, of course, the people who teach international relations in India know Subramaniam Swamy, but they don't know Raj Krishna and they don't know my father. But this is the reality there. And at the same time, Homi Bhabha was giving speeches about why are you trying to contain Indian proliferation, which is the puppy of proliferation, when you do not cage the tiger of proliferation, which is the United States and the Soviet Union. And Vikram Sarabhai was talking about why India needs to have a space plan and why that would lead to leadership in the international system. I just do not see why this sort of argument is made by people. And worse, I don't see why it's taken seriously by people. So thank you, Chintamani, for giving me this opportunity, because it always aggravates me that Indians think that they need a certificate from somebody. Now let me get to what I was going to talk about, and I'll do it very quickly. Look, the US-China relationship is fundamentally different from the US-Soviet relationship in the Cold War. The US-Soviet relationship was about arms races, proxy wars, and it was an existential threat. The US used to plan to bomb Moscow and 50 other Soviet cities. The Soviets used to plan to bomb 50 American cities. Neither the Chinese nor the Americans are doing that kind of planning. It's a very different competition between the Americans and the Chinese. And as I've written elsewhere, the competition between the Americans and the Chinese is at three levels: challenge, compete, cooperate. Challenge is the Americans have made it very clear that we are not going to allow Chinese hegemony in the East and South China Seas. At the same time, as Professor Pandey pointed out, the Chinese are making it very clear that this liberal international order never applied to us and never will apply to us. So we are going to create a new international order. That is the challenge part of it. The competition part of it is largely technological. Again, look at what the competition is between the US and the Soviet Union. Yeah, China. Yes, they're making fighter aircraft, nobody cares. The real competition is 5G, robotics, electric cars. And I'll get to electric cars in a second. So where should the US and China be headed? And as I see it, the challenge will remain, the competition will remain, because both countries want to have their 5G as the global 5G. But there is a very high level of cooperation which neither country can walk away from. And one which both the Biden administration and the first Bush administration used to talk about is climate change. You cannot do climate change without getting the Indians and the Chinese on board. So a lot of this talk is facile. Second thing to keep in mind when you look at China is because of the things the Chinese are doing, it's making technological changes around the world a lot easier. Because the Chinese mass-produce solar panels, the price of solar panels crashed. Around the world, we now talk about solar energy, which 10 years ago even you couldn't talk about. Second example is what happens when 5G and robotics come along. Because as an aging country, Chinese use of robotics will be useful for many countries around the world, particularly the Europeans. And again, take the example of electric cars, which is a really interesting one because the world focuses on Elon Musk and the toy called the Tesla. The Tesla is not a good quality car. It's being recalled in the United States as I speak. The Chinese are building all kinds of electric cars and they're building the batteries. So Candy, Neo, I mean, just to give you some examples of these cars that the Chinese are making, if the Chinese create vehicles which can be used around the world, if the Chinese make the batteries that are affordable around the world, it leads to a different type of international economic order. And I'll end by saying this. Look, everybody sees the American-Chinese economic competition as a zero-sum game. The Americans win or the Chinese win. I look at this very differently, and I want to go back to Jawaharlal Nehru, who's despised in India now, but some old people like me, Chintamani, we remember him with some degree of fondness. And Jawaharlal Nehru used to say, if you want to change the international order, you have to deal with poverty, destitution, underdevelopment in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. Because if you don't remove that, you will never be able to get rid of the real global tensions. And if you want a one-word answer to what Nehru was saying, Afghanistan. Look at the mess that has just opened up there because nobody's really been able to come up with a creative developmental plan. And the way I look at it is the Chinese are putting the hardware around the world. Go to Africa, the Chinese are building the internet system, they're putting in the fiber optics. But for that to gain any kind of commercial credence, it will require American software and connection to American financial services, marketing, and so on. So I'll end by saying this. If you are looking at the world today as, let's say, an African nation or an Asian nation, you have to say to both the superpowers, if you want to play with us, you're going to have to play in harmony. You cannot play in competition. I'll end with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta, for your remarks. We are not taking questions in this session, but if we have time, we'll take it at the end of the session. Now I'd like to invite our partners to introduce their department, institutions, university in 2 to 3 minutes. First of all, I would like to invite Dr. Anil Hira, professor at Simon Fraser University, Canada. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this talk. It's an honor to be present with so many distinguished scholars from around the world, and congratulations on your organizational efforts. Hopefully it will be the beginning of a long-term discussion about these important issues. At Simon Fraser University, we have a center here for clean energy research, and we'll be talking about this tomorrow. And we're very keen to try to find partnerships with like-minded people around the world at universities to promote the transition to clean energy in relation to climate change. And so I would encourage everyone who is interested in this topic to contact me and to look at the Clean Energy Research Group website. And we're very happy to discuss possible avenues for cooperation. Until tomorrow, then, I wish you all a good evening, since it's approximately bedtime here now. But I will look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to invite Professor Anju Saranopradhyay from Center of Peace and Development. Over to you, ma'am. Professor andFormer. Okay, now we'd like to move to Professor Mrityunjay Mishra, Department of Economics and Coordinator of Center for the Study of Nepal, Banaras Hindu University.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, Pramod ji.
Yes, sir. We can hear you. Please go ahead, sir.
Are you asking me to speak something?
Sir, would you like to introduce your department?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good morning to everybody. Namaste from Banaras University. Myself, Professor Mrityunjay Mishra, coordinating the Center for Study of Nepal, which was which has been started in 1976 by the Honorable University Grants Commission as an area study program. My esteemed Professor Anjuji is now seen on the screen, who has coordinated the center for a long time period, and the center now is in its present status due to her tireless efforts. I'm fortunate to coordinate that, and I'm fortunate to be a part of this program, and thanks to Professor Pramod ji, we are interested to continue this collaboration in the field of India and Nepal studies, as well as South Asian studies, expecting your future cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now invite Professor andFormer. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jaiswal. We are indeed honored to be partners in this wonderful event with Nice Nepal. First of all, congratulations to you, Pramod ji, for hosting such a dynamic event here. I will very quickly introduce Center for the Study of Peace and Development, which I am a very founding member. Center for the Study of Peace and Development basically aims at bridging the gap between theory, policy, and the practice. And we were set up in 2003 and have been essentially devoted to challenges related from the regional to the global to national and to the local, because we find there's a very strong loop. And in this context, we are very keen to partner with Nice Nepal. As I've been very fond of saying during my time in Kathmandu as a ICCR India chair at Tribhuvan University, as well as as a coordinator of Center for the Study of Nepal, which is the most important center for the study of Nepal in India, established in 1976 as a part of political science department, growing up into an independent center in the late 80s. I have always believed that Nepal has been a very, very important partner in more than one ways of India, and there should be diverse ways in connecting with Nepal. And these diverse ways offer us a plethora of common studies, ranging from the study of local development issues, gender issues, the indigenous people, the political unfolding. And we are very happy to be meeting through you also, Pramod ji, other players on the international scene. Again, international relations are a mixture of the domestic and the global. And on that count, I see very strong prospects of partnering with you. And we look forward to this joint initiative of making the world a better place for us in general, and of course, South Asia, a better place for us to live. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Upadhyay. May I now invite Nikolay and Gorachev, Council of Pacific Affairs, Tahiti. Over to you, Nikolay.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, my dear colleagues, my dear friends. And so I would like to express our greetings from the Council on Pacific Affairs and from Tahiti. As the Council on Pacific Affairs is one of the first Pacific independent non-partisan think tank, which headquarters is based in Tahiti and which unites experts across the Pacific. The Council of Pacific Affairs task is to promote Pacific ideas in the society, spread facts and unbiased information about it. And our mission is to build the vast potential of the Pacific region for impact on regional issues, discourse, and policies. So I would like to say that I wish good luck to all the participants, and I hope that you can join us for our session for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikolay. May I now invite Dr. Aslam Khan, Associate Professor at Department of Gandhian and Peace Studies, Mahatma Gandhi Central University. Dr. Khan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, for the opportunity. First of all, my greetings and namaskar to each and everybody from the land of Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari. This is quite a very great opportunity to collaborate with the NIS. In terms of, since we are having a Department of Gandhian and Peace Studies, and it is very much close to Nepal. So it will be a great opportunity for us to collaborate because the distance is not much from there. And these are a lot of areas of peace, security, and other areas we can explore further for the further research. I am highly thankful for the opportunity to collaborate with you. And I wish you all the best for this convention. Thank you very much for the
Thank you, Dr. Khan. May I now invite Professor Sahib Iman Khan, Department of International Relations, Jahangir Nagar University, Bangladesh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jaiswal, for giving us an opportunity to collaborate with NIS and to be a partner in this particular initiative, which we understand merits greater attention, not only within the academia, but also within the policy circles. And I think this is a platform which will pave a lot of interaction leading towards a greater understanding of the region. And I was quite intrigued to listen to Professor Gupta, and I think he has brought out a fantastic understanding of how the region will be evolving over the period to come, when he brought out the genesis and perhaps the future of US-China, I won't say rivalry, rather I would say the equation in multiple strata. I think the term rivalry is probably often misused in our discourses or the narratives. And he has really the last statement when it came in terms of Africa, that you might build an infrastructure that is much needed for poverty eradication. What about the software solution for that particular poverty eradication? So again, the harmony is probably something that we really need to look forward to, and the very understanding of Indian subcontinent. If I go back to Meghnad Desai's understanding of Indica, and perhaps if I was in fact writing a public anecdote on Afghan history, because we now have a plethora of Afghan experts everywhere. So I was just, I took a project with a couple of archaeologists and historians to really look into the Afghan history, starting from the time of Nadir Shah. I would say there were Shahs and others. So, and then we started to look into the linkages. So if you look at the maps and the remaking of the maps and the redrawing of the maps, and you get very interesting dots that we need to connect sometimes. And perhaps this is where the beauty of this particular conference comes in. And probably we will be talking all these things in the subsequent sessions. Saying that, I belong to a public university, which is 5 decades old, and I teach in International Relations Department, which is even younger, a couple of decades. So we focus mostly on the contemporary issues and theories, and we've been part of NIS for quite some times. We are quite young though. We're trying to create our alternative discourse to the common understanding of the conflict, violence, and with a particular focus on the extremism dynamics in the prevailing southern, rather, or perhaps the southern eastern discourses on security. So this is where we work mostly. And I myself try to study extremism and security from the perspective of not only Bangladesh, but as an overall South Asia. So this is where my expertise lies. So I look forward to a greater discussion, or rather conversation, over the next 2 days. And I congratulate Dr. Jaiswal for pulling in brilliant minds that is possibly available to really discuss the pending issues, which deserves greater conversation and discourse. Thank you very much, Dr. Jaiswal.
Thank you, Professor Khan. May I now invite Dr. Kumar Gupta, Associate Professor and Dean, School of Humanities and Social Science, Central University of Jharkhand. Dr. Gupta.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Very good morning to all of you, all the distinguished participants, and heartiest congratulations to Dr. Pramod for organizing a very successful event. It has started with a very good note, and I am sure it is going to be a great intellectual feast over the next couple of days. We are a central university situated in Jharkhand state of Bihar, and Jharkhand state of India, and it is one of those central universities which were started in 2009. I think 14 central universities were established, and Central University of Jharkhand is one of those. We have undergraduate, postgraduate, PG programs, undergraduate programs we have in education and law, and across science and social science departments, we have a lot of PhD programs, and presently 24 departments are active, spread over nearly 9 schools. So mine is the Department of Politics and International Relations, where we offer a master's program and PhD program. We also have an allied department called Department of Public Administration, which has been established last year only. We have one campus which is temporary at Brambe, situated in lush green environment, and our permanent campus is coming up at Cheri Manatu village. Government of Jharkhand has allocated us 510 acres of land. So it is still coming up. Some of the departments have already been established over there, and we have a very eco-friendly environment where we are involved in academic pursuit. Tomorrow we have a session. We invite all of you to be a part of the deliberations on Indo-Pacific affairs, and I'm really indebted to Professor Dr. Pramod for giving this opportunity to be a part of this International Study Convention. I take this opportunity to wish all the best to all the participating institutions and other participants who are going to be a part of it over the next couple of days. Thank you, Dr. Pramod, and thanks to all the participants.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. May I now invite Dr. Harinda Bidanage, Department of Strategic Studies, Faculty of Defense and Strategic Studies, General Sir John Kotelawala, Defense University, Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Dr. Jaiswal. Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. From Sri Lanka, I go on from Sri Lanka. I represent Sri Lanka's only national defense university. and I represent the Faculty of Defense and Strategic Studies. The Defense University is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. It founded as a defense academy and later elevated to a defense university. And in 2007, after the end of Sri Lanka's conflict, the university embarked on a unique experiment where you had civic military fusion, where civil students were accommodated. So we are a fully fledged campus with a southern campus, extension campus. We have and the only campus in Sri Lanka which has its own university hospital. So we represent 9 faculties, and 2 faculties are going to be set up next year, Faculty of Technology and Criminology. So I represent the Department of Strategic Studies, which are the 2 major departments which make the Defense and Strategic Studies faculty, other being the Defense, which looks after all the officer cadets. The Defense Strategic Studies department is relatively new. And we started in 2020 a unique undergraduate degree program, which is called the BSc in Strategic Studies and International Relations. That is Sri Lanka's only offering of the blend of strategic studies and international relations. And we are now in the second iteration. But we have been running a master's program on security and strategic studies for many years. So as a new department with a new offering and a new direction, we are very keen to be part of the regional international studies discourse, as well as we are very much open for a lot of collaboration, because our department is also undertaking to be and establish policy research and policy studies. So we are very keen on significant collaborations with regional think tanks, universities, departments. So this is why we thought we collaborate and we tie up with NICE Nepal. And I'm very grateful for Dr. Jaiswal for accommodating us, because we will be fielding probably the youngest of the panelists from our students, but that's an exposure that Sri Lanka desperately needs. And we heard about all the competition, rivalry discourses. So we sit right in the middle of it. So it's very important for a small power like Sri Lanka and our citizenry and students and researchers who are interested in the subject area to get insights and acquire their capabilities to analyze and direct future policies and future academia in the country. So in that context, we take this as a very important milestone. So once again, thank you, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, for accommodating us and for inviting us. And we wish you and every participant all the success. May this be a good platform for the South Asian cooperation and collaboration. May we become good diplomats and good friends. And may our academic insights intervene and nourish. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Vidanage. May I now invite Professor Dr. Jakub Zakazkowski, Head, Global and Area Studies, Faculty of Political Science and International Studies, University of Warsaw.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, all of you. So it is great pleasure for our faculty of Political Science and International Studies, University of Warsaw, to take part in such a great event. And I would like to express, first of all, great thanks to Professor Pramod Jaiswal and the Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement for inviting us to take part in this event. And we are very happy, proud that we could be a partner of this international studies convention. So great thanks. And I would like also to congratulate today's session. And also if we look at this topic of this convention, discussion, the panels, it looks really impressive. So it is a great honor for us that we could take part in this debate, discussion on international relations. Our faculty of Political Science and International Studies, especially my Department of Area and Global Studies, we have partners around the world. We have over 200 partners among universities in Asia, in Latin America, in the Middle East, of course, in Europe. But especially we put a stress on Asia Pacific. In the last 10 years, we have developed over 50 partnership with Indian, Chinese, Japanese, South Korean, Southeast Asian universities. And I'm very happy that today, for example, I could see a lot of our friends, especially Professor Rector Chintamani Mahapatra. We have very close cooperation with Jawaharlal Nehru University since 2008. As a faculty, we have also a lot of EU-funded projects focusing on Asia Pacific, European Union, Asia, India, and we would be very, very happy not only take part in discussion, debate on IR today, tomorrow, and the next day, but I hope and we hope that it will be a great platform for closer cooperation with many of you, and we could have a lot of joint research project. Tomorrow is our panel session on Indo-Pacific, and we would like to invite all of you who are interested in this issue to participate in our panel. Once again, great thanks, and I would like to wish you very, very fruitful 2 days, and warm wishes from Cagliari, because now I'm in Sardinia during holiday, but I'm so happy that I could take part in this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Jakub. May I now invite Professor Dr. A. Subramaniam Raju, Dean, International Relations at Pondicherry University. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so, and yeah, I'm representing from the Pondicherry University, where I'm associating with the Center for South Asian Studies, which is offering MA in South Asian Studies and PhD program. And till recently, we had students from different countries in South Asia, except from Pakistan, who have pursued MA in South Asian Studies. And also, I am associated with the Center for Maritime Studies, and I am also representing the university as a Dean of International Relations, where my role is to have more collaboration with different institutions, both in India as well as from foreign countries. And so we are looking forward to have collaboration with NICE as well as other institutions which are part of this event. So I look at and above all these research to be carried out by our centers, but I look at one aspect where we can be very serious about where we can map South Asian contribution to international studies. I think we need to have a kind of a training or workshop for the young people who are very, very having the potential, but then some of the students who do not have how to start and how to write and how to analyze. I think that this, I think I'm looking forward to have collaboration with the institutions who would have interest in terms of having a series of workshops for the young people, so that we can look at how to map the role of South Asian scholars towards international studies. And I wish the event a success, and thanks for the invitation, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Raju. May I now invite Dr. Tamanna Khosla, Director at Prajna Initiative, USA. Dr. Tamanna.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Pramod. This is Dr. Tamanna Khosla from Prajna Initiative. It's a very new initiative, and we are very thankful that you have given us the space to represent ourselves and, tell the audience and professionals and professors and the distinguished speakers about our organization. Actually, it's a Prajna Initiative is an IT based think tank, and it's based on transparency. It wants to take democracy to another level. Like till from 70s to the 90s, the discussion was more on material security. From the 90s onwards, the discussion shifted to democracy, human rights, and transparency, etc. These things became very important. And now, because of the global civil society movements and computerization and more of people moving to internet and Facebook and Google, Twitter, etc. These things become very important. So we have focused on transparency, and so for this we have developed a new app which is called Physics, and it comes from the subject physics, and it's like PHYSIX. And here we are looking at artificial intelligence, ethics in artificial intelligence, and democracy, etc. We're looking at several other issues, and how transparency can be brought about. So, for example, if we look at the quest of democracy, so it enhances the rule of voting system in a democracy. It is not just about yes or no. It would also give views. So we have developed an app which would look at, for example, it's color based. We have two apps. One is color based app, and the other is a gray and white scale app. So the color based app is if a country or a academic theory is at the red, it means it's the worst position, and if it comes at the violet, it becomes the best. So it's a very easy thing, and even a 5-year-old can understand the theory. And and this is the whole thing. And so we are basically wanting to take democracy to the next level, and this is with the help of all our scholars who are participating. And we are also organizing a session. Please we'll initiate more discussion on physics, and Dr. Dan Smith, who is the founder of Physics, would be speaking on that, and I'll be chairing it. Please, in the session on digitalization and AI, please come and hear us out. We are very thankful for the invite, Dr. Pramod. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tamanna. May I now invite Professor Eiichiro Sato, Dean of Graduate School of Asia Pacific Studies, Ritsumeikan, Asia Pacific University, Japan.
Hello, good morning, Pramod. Thank you very much. We at the Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University, which started only 21 years ago, we recruit half of our students from overseas. And Japanese universities are also often known for the engineering degrees and so forth as an attractive major for overseas students. But we only have 2 majors at the undergraduate level. One is business administration, and the other is Asia Pacific Studies, which is a social science focus in which international relation is a major leading component. And I'm the dean of the latter college. When we started, very much resemble with this conference in the sense that we bring people from this region, Indo-Pacific region and beyond, and we are featuring the study of international affairs in this the Indo-Pacific region. So I am very comfortable being invited here and also bringing my students to this prestigious international conference. So I hope to interact actively with many of you into the future, and I hope you will see our students as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sato. May I now invite Dr. Nanda Kishore or any of the participant or representative from Department of Geopolitics and International Relations, Manipal Academy of Higher Education. I think we do not have anyone from there. Anyone from Department of International Relations, South Asian University, India? Anyone from Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka? Anyone from Institute of Research and European Studies, North Macedonia? I think none of the other representatives are there. So since we still have around 10-15 minutes, I'd like to give, there are a few questions in the chat. So if any of our speaker would like to respond to that, I'd like to request them to make their remarks in 2-3 minutes. So maybe I can start with Ambassador Ahmed Saleem. Ambassador Saleem, would you like to add anything or you have any remarks at the end?
Thank you very much, Dr. Pramod. I just want to thank you again for giving me this opportunity to participate in this very distinguished panel this morning. And what I commented on was about SAARC, in which I have been involved since 1990. So all of us, I think most of us belong to SAARC, and we all want something good to happen in this region for the benefit of the region. So that's all I have to say. So once again, thank you very much. Look forward to being part of you again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saleem. Professor Chintamani Mahapatra, would you like to add?
Dr. Pramod, I would rather congratulate you for organizing such a wonderful event. And I also agree with you that it should be an annual affair. Maybe in the future, we can identify any particular theme and then make such a conference where people from across the world can come and deliberate upon one particular theme. It can be an area, it can be an issue, it can be a global common issue, anything. So this is one of the best ways to promote not only international understanding, but also to promote international relations as a subject area. The kind of people you have been able to gather in such a convention, all of them have so many insights into so many important aspects of world politics. And I think everyone will benefit from it, even the students. Yes, pandemic has created a lot of problem and we are not able to meet in person. That's true. But pandemic has also taught that technologies are available to stay in touch. And you don't have to make travel arrangements. You don't have to spend money on that. Just by using technology, you have been able to get so many people into this webinar. And that way, the students will greatly benefit. Those who are doing MA or even those who are doing research by participating in this kind of events. I recall even it was not possible for even faculty members to finance their trip abroad for participating in this kind of conventions and seminars. But now technology has helped us. So now I think maybe we should do more and more of this kind. This is a convention, but in between two conventions, we can have a series of events just to educate ourselves, exchange views, and improve mutual understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chintamani Mahapatra. From next year, we're trying to make it hybrid, where we'll have physical as well as online, because that will make us easy to connect with, allow more participants to join us. Professor Sanjay Kumar Pandey, would you like to add?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pramod. I have a couple of questions in the chat box. One is on the issue of hegemony. Now, I know most of you must have read about Gramsci's hegemony, And hegemony is not just in terms of military might or economic power or even technological. Hegemony is more ideational and ideological. And the Western domination has been also because of hegemony of ideas. Coming to the question of democracy, India claims to be the largest democracy, but at the same time, we are very conscious about the issue of sovereignty or non-interference in internal affairs of other countries, the Panchsheel principles. Even Russia, which many would not like to consider as a democracy, but it has its own take on democracy. Putin often says that democracy cannot be imposed on others. What he opposes is not democracy. This is what he says. He says we are against intervention in the name of humanitarian intervention or imposition of democracy from above. He says that democracy can have many models. There cannot be one universal model of democracy that is US or UK model. Depending on our own historical, cultural experience, our own problems and requirements, we would like to adapt democracy to our own conditions. So the hegemony is about hegemony of ideas. Coming to China, there is a question on China. Now, China has its own claims to represent a certain model. Initially, it was said that the Chinese do not propagate their model, but that's past. In the last 4 or 5 years, we have seen how Xi Jinping now talks about the Chinese model. Even earlier, the Asian values debate, whether it was Mahathir Mohamad of Malaysia or even the Chinese leadership, which would like to emphasize the fact that Asian values are fundamentally different from European values, which puts too much emphasis on the individual, on individual rights, basically civic rights. On the contrary, Asian values emphasize the significance and centrality of the community, of the society, of the whole. So the Chinese have, and there are countries. I study Central Asia. I can tell you in Central Asia, there are quite a few people who are enamored by the Chinese model, which provides economic development, growth, prosperity with political stability. In the last few years, the problems that were witnessed by US, including in its electoral system, has given arguments to the critics of US model of democracy. There are there in India, in China in Global Times, you find many articles critiquing the American model of democracy. So there is a contest of ideas, and countries like India and Russia, they believe that democracy is what is best suited to the conditions of the country in which it grows, rather. It cannot be imposed. All right. So just one more point. There is a question about India-Russia trade. The trade is abysmal, around $10 billion, whereas trade between India and China, for example, is 100 billion or so, slightly less. But we should understand that economic relations or trade relations, they are very important, but at the same time, they do not necessarily reflect meeting of minds. Otherwise, how would you explain the fact that trade between China and Japan is, I don't remember the figures, $100 billion plus, trade between China and US. But despite that, their political differences and very different worldviews, security concerns, they definitely don't bring these two countries or different countries together. So trade is important, but cannot be the only determining factor. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Pramod. It was an excellent session. I congratulate you. I look forward to participating in more sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Pandey. May I now invite Dr. Gupta?
Yeah, again, I have been very happy with these efforts you've made, Pramod, because Nepal is becoming a leader in international relations in South Asia, thanks to the kind of stuff you're doing. Okay? What I would suggest is, given that you now have a consortium, and I didn't know that there was, security studies being done in Jharkhand and places like that, but I would love to give a talk in Jharkhand. And what I'm suggesting to you is, instead of having 300 people, have a lecture series which can go out to the consortium on topics which are of interest to the consortium. And there's a lot of interesting things. And, the number of speakers you have, you can cover all aspects of international relations. I just want to say one very quick thing on Indo-Russian relations. This is why Indo-Russian relations will go nowhere, because the Russians are small-time thinkers. The Russian economy is about the size of Ohio. And if you look at what the Russians export today, it's what the Soviet Union used to export, with one addition: commodities, weapons, vodka, caviar, oil. Russia does exactly the same thing, but they have, I must admit, progressed. They now are great hackers. And I do want you guys to understand one thing about this. This is where Father Putin lacks a world vision, unlike Xi Jinping. By hacking, you can make 5 million, 6 million. By opening Amazon, Google, Microsoft, you make 170 billion, and you're doing space launches. And this is why the Russians will always be this penny ante operation in international relations. It's really embarrassing to say this, because they cannot think big. Look at what the Chinese do. And by the way, just to add to Pandey's point, China-ASEAN trade is 740 billion. China-EU trade is 600 billion. China-US trade is 500 and something billion. China-Japan trade is 300 billion. India-Russia trade is 10 billion. It's embarrassing. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Thank you for your remarks. And lecture series is a wonderful idea. I think we'll go for it. And we have been sharing to all our partners, all our scholars that will be happy to, we want our scholars to engage among themselves, communicate, collaborate, and nice to be happy to provide a platform or share the contact details, connect them together. So, Dr. Gupta, we hope to see you in Jharkhand virtually very soon. Here we come to the end of the inaugural session. I, on behalf of NICE, once again would like to thank all our speakers for their wonderful presentation. I would also like to thank all our partners. We have around 24: Center for Peace and Development India, Center for the Study of Nepal, Banaras Hindu University, Council of Pacific Affairs, Tahiti, Department of Gandhi and Peace Studies, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, India, Department of Geopolitics and International Relations, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, India, Department of International Relations and Governance Studies, School of Humanity and Social Science, Nadar University, India, Department of International Relations, Jahangir Nagar University, Bangladesh, Department of International Relations, Southeastern University, India, Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka, Department of Political and International Relations, Central University of Jharkhand, Department of Strategic Studies, Faculty of Defense and Strategic Studies, General Sir John Hotelwala Defense University, Sri Lanka, Faculty of Law, University St. Clement, North Macedonia, Faculty of Political Science and International Relations, University of Warsaw, Institute of Research and European Studies, North Macedonia, Institute of the Middle and Far East, Jagiellonian University, Poland, Picardy Creative Diplomacy, Russia, Pondicherry University, India, Pontifical Catholic University of Argentina, Prajna Initiative of USA, Mencken Asia Pacific University, Japan, Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Universities in Russia, Simon Fraser University, Canada, SAARC University of London, UK, and University of Kerala, India. I would also like to thank all our participants, friends from the media, diplomatic mission, and audience for their kind presence. Thank you once again. Please join our next session. Thank you so much.